Broadcast Center in Los Angeles. This is KCAL 9 News at 9.
Now at 9, mask confusion. States and businesses scramble to come up with their own policies after the CDC tells fully vaccinated Americans they can start ditching their masks. California comeback plan. Governor Gavin Newsom outlines his massive budget proposal. How will he spend the state's $100 billion surplus? And the unusual election audit happening in Arizona. A private company is hired to investigate ballots from the 2020 election. Why they are using UV lights and looking for bamboo fibers on the paper. But we begin with breaking news tonight. No signs of conflict easing up between Israeli forces and Hamas militants as more rockets and bombs continue to fall and Israeli tanks and troops have gathered on the border with Gaza. Welcome to KCAL 9 News at 9, and we're streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. I'm Juan Fernandez. Pat Harvey is off tonight. The UN is warning the fighting could unleash an uncontainable humanitarian crisis. Imtiaz Tayeb has the latest for us from Tel Aviv.
One of Gaza's youngest victims is rushed to a hospital. Since fighting began 5 days ago, nearly 1,000 Palestinians have been wounded as Israeli fighter jets pound the territory and artillery forces amassed along Gaza's perimeter, carrying out coordinated strikes. This man's home was completely destroyed. He says they hit us 10 times without warning. Overnight confusion over whether Israel had actually entered Gaza only added to the tension. But what's become clear is it has no plans to end its campaign, says Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's top advisor, Mark Regev.
Hamas must understand that shooting rockets into Israel is unacceptable, and ultimately it hurts them more than it hurts us.
They haven't stopped.
And we're not going to stop.
The battle with Hamas over its indiscriminate rocket fire isn't Israel's only crisis. For days, mobs of Israeli Arabs and Jews have been brutally attacking each other. While in the occupied West Bank, protests turned deadly when 9 Palestinians were killed in confrontations with Israeli soldiers.
Israel is facing challenge after challenge on multiple fronts, and now the potential of even more after 3 rockets were fired at it from nearby Syria, an ally of arch rival Iran. Imtiaz Tayeb, Tel Aviv.
Tonight, there's a new terror warning from the Department of Homeland Security. The agency says the U.S. is facing threats that include domestic terrorism, grievance-based violence, and foreign terrorists. DHS is warning that extremists might strike as pandemic restrictions ease and people start gathering again. Currently, though, there is no information to indicate a specific credible plot. All right, now to the mass confusion happening all over America tonight. One day after the CDC told fully vaccinated Americans could go maskless in most situations, states and businesses are scrambling to come up with their own policies. Some are aligning with the CDC, others are keeping the mask mandates, at least for now. Meg Oliver reports.
Tonight, mask excitement leading to mass confusion as states, schools, and businesses struggle with how to handle new CDC guidance that vaccinated Americans no longer need to wear masks inside or out.
It's definitely been a curveball. It's going to put us in a hard spot with how we're, number one, keeping our clients safe, our staff safe.
From baseball stadiums to beaches, no masks are required. Governors in at least a dozen states saying they'll immediately follow the new CDC guidance. South Carolina and Utah going even farther, dropping face coverings for all public school children too. But in other cities and states, especially those that were hardest hit by the virus, there is caution tonight. New York, New Jersey, and California all saying mask mandates will remain for now.
If you're in a business or a public setting, we're not there yet. We're frankly not there yet.
From grocery stores to big box retailers, concerned that policy reversal could force workers to police who is vaccinated and who isn't.
When people come in and say they've been vaccinated, how do we know?
Major retailers, including Kroger, Starbucks, Target, and Home Depot, say they're keeping mask mandates in place. But Walmart and Trader Joe's announced masks are no longer required for customers who've gotten their shots, and stores won't be asking for proof.
There's no way for a business to know whether people are vaccinated or not. I think we're going to see a lot of big businesses go towards vaccine passports in order to keep their employees and their customers safe. But for others, they may just have to accept that risk.
The CDC says the decision is based on science and came after pivotal real-world data showing the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines were 94% effective in U.S. healthcare workers. But today, the CDC director acknowledged further guidance is needed.
What we need to do now at CDC and really across this nation is to take this guidance and revise our guidance. We need to look at our travel guidance. We need to look at our school guidance, our childcare guidance, our camp guidance.
Meg Oliver for KCAL 9 News.
President Biden is putting the new mask guidelines into practice. The president was with a departing staffer and her family outside the White House this morning. When asked if he's enjoying his first day without masks, the president responded yes. And in the White House press briefing room, just 2 reporters wore masks while the rest went without. Following the change by the CDC, the White House Correspondents Association Board sent a message to reporters saying if they are fully vaccinated, they do not need to wear a mask. Journalists still followed social distancing rules, as you see there, sitting with several seats in between them. Governor Newsom continues his budget war chest, opening it up, that is. Tonight, he announced more cash to be spent helping to repair California after being hit by the pandemic. KCAL 9's political reporter Tom Waite, live in Porter Ranch now with reaction for us. Hey, Tom.
Hi there, Juan. Well, tonight, Governor Newsom is saying the state's $76 billion budget surplus is proof of a California comeback, and many folks out here agree with him in Porter Ranch, but others do not.
Highest reserves in state's history.
Trying to dig himself out of a recall rut, Governor Newsom says the state budget is in great shape thanks to a surprise tax windfall from the state's highest earners. And he says most Californians will reap the benefits.
Families with dependents will receive an additional $500, just one time, not per child.
The governor also reviewed plans he laid out earlier this week to give direct payments of as much as $1,100 to 2/3 of Californians, free pre-kindergarten for all 4-year-olds, and $1.5 billion for small businesses hurt by the pandemic. The governor also reiterated his plans to spend billions to battle the homeless crisis.
Yes, we see what you see. Those encampments growing all up and down the state of California. We have a direct encampment strategy, $193 million to create supports, create opportunities to build partnerships, capacity with local government to address the unique and challenging, often vexing issues with encampments.
One of Newsom's new initiatives is traffic ticket amnesty for low-income earners going back to 2015.
To direct $300 million to provide traffic fine forgiveness. A lot of debt that has been owed for fines and fees associated with traffic fines. This is for low-income Californians.
So how is the governor doing with his constituents? Some are giving him high praise. Kim Renteria is a medical assistant who lives in Chatsworth.
A lot of these people have lost so many, jobs, so many businesses due to the pandemic. In that case, he is helping so much on that.
I'd have to say a fail.
Charmaine Diaz from Reseda says the governor has not done a good job guiding the state through COVID.
I think that he just doesn't practice what he preaches.
Something a lot of folks seem to agree on is the parking ticket issue.
I think that if you are out there getting parking tickets, you should pay attention to the signs.
I think it should be even to everyone, no matter what your income is.
And also tonight, Governor Newsom is offering other incentives to other industries like the film industry, offering tax rebates to keep film production in California. Reporting live in Porter Ranch, I'm Tom Waite. Juan, back to you.
And Tom, when you were talking to families tonight, do you get the sense they were aware of the recall, and what are people saying about that?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely get the sense that people know that the recall is looming, and some people are very supportive of Governor Newsom, but I did talk to a number of people who wouldn't go on camera who are very angry, and some of them are just very frustrated with what happened in the state in the past year. But then there's others who say, look, this is a very difficult time to govern, whether you're the mayor, governor, the president. It's, governing in a very difficult time, unprecedented. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But certainly this is not going to be an easy situation for the governor to deal with. He's dealing with a lot of frustration out here. Juan.
Yeah, and definitely in a time of so much change. All right, Tom, thanks so much for that. Most of California's district attorneys are petitioning against a new incarceration guideline that could release thousands of inmates. 41 of California's 58 DAs are challenging the early release of 76,000 inmates. Tulare County District Attorney Tim Ward says he signed a petition against the decision because there was no transparency.
They passed this regulation on a Friday afternoon with no fanfare, with no public input, and they justified doing so under an emergency regulation request.
The Department of Corrections has 30 days to respond to the repeal request. The next step would take the matter to court. The DAs from Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ventura counties all signed the petition, but LA's George Gascon did not. Coming up next at 9, multiple people injured in an explosion in Maryland. Then, jail inmate death investigation. New video of the events leading up to the death of a mentally ill man. We'll hear from his mother, who recently saw the video for the very first time. And a man in Texas is ordered back to jail tonight in a bizarre case involving murder and a missing Bengal tiger.
Wow. We're getting a look at LAX tonight. Cloud cover moving in and a chance of rain. We will break it all down when we come back.
And remember, you can watch us anywhere and anytime on our brand new CBS Los Angeles app. Just go to cbsla.com/app to download it. You can watch our live newscasts like this one on CBSN LA, streaming 24/7, plus the latest weather and sports. A natural gas explosion outside of Baltimore, Maryland today injured 3 people, 1 critically. Baltimore gas and electric workers were among the injured. It also sparked a fire in the street. Homes were evacuated and structures, several cars along with power lines were enveloped by that fire. Neighbors say they heard a loud boom and saw a flash of light. They say a fireball jumped 50 feet in the air. About 200 customers had their gas service suspended as crews worked on repairs there. All right, turning back now to politics. Tonight, there's new evidence that the Grand Old Party remains, to a large extent, the party of Trump. House Republicans chose an outspoken supporter of the former president to be their third-ranking leader. Nicole Killian reports.
House Republican leaders tried to present a united front this morning after purging Liz Cheney from their ranks and replacing her with Trump loyalist Elise Stefanik.
I want to congratulate Elise Stefanik.
The 36-year-old New York Congresswoman overwhelmingly won a majority of votes by secret ballot, replacing Cheney, who upset party leaders for criticizing former President Trump's refusal to accept the 2020 election result and his role in the January 6th attack.
How can you be unified so long as you have some members who support the former president and some who don't?
We are unified, and I look to the voters across America. Republican voters are unified in their support and their desire to work with President Trump.
Stefanik was instantly praised by the former president, who cheered the Make America Great Again movement is strong. With his grip on the party tightening, a still defiant Cheney vowed not to back down.
I think the issue really is Donald Trump, and it really is the party, and whether we're going to be a party that's based on the truth.
Republicans who supported Cheney's ouster feel Trump's support is critical if they're going to regain power in 2022. Iowa's Ashley Hinson, a Stefanik supporter, says it simply came down to message.
I respect Congresswoman Cheney's conservative record, but if you're the leader of a company and they weren't delivering on the message that the majority of your company wanted, you'd make a change, and that's exactly what we're seeing here.
Nicole Killian, the White House.
After months of wrangling, House lawmakers have agreed to a bipartisan commission to look into the insurrection on Capitol Hill. The panel will have 10 members, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans. They will have the power to issue subpoenas as long as the Democrat chair and Republican vice chair sign off on it. Meanwhile, this accused insurrectionist has been jailed, but not because of what happened on January 6th. Patrick Montgomery recently shot a mountain lion and a bobcat during a hunting trip. Montgomery is a convicted felon, so he's not allowed to own a gun, but he says he needs one for his job as a hunting guide. His lawyers are now trying to work something out with the Justice Department. Well, Mars has a new visitor tonight. Chinese state-run media reports that China has landed a spacecraft on the red planet. The country plans to explore an icy area of Mars known as Utopia Planitia. China's rover joins America's Perseverance, which arrived earlier this year. How about that science story right into our forecast for the weekend with meteorologist Evelyn Taft. Hey,
And
Ev.
love a little science,
Yep.
Juan, and even more so, love a little outer space. And more importantly, these days, Mars. That's very cool. Lots going on Mars right now. So we're tracking it, of course. We're tracking our forecast here at home with a chance of rain on our hands. Pretty incredible. Long Beach right now, we just saw a little bit of cloud cover. And as we get a look at temperatures from earlier today, 73, that was the forecast high for downtown. So we were actually a little warmer today than yesterday. Not originally the plan, but we saw more sunshine and that daytime heating really kicked in. So as we head into the weekend, we're going to see just the opposite. More cloud cover, less daytime heating, cooler temperatures. Satellite radar showing us a little bit of cloud cover starting to show up along the coastline, starting to push inland, and we could even get a few showers as early as tomorrow morning. Temperatures right now in the 50s and 60s, 62 Woodland Hills, 59 in downtown. And satellite and radar tracker, you'll see by 3 a.m. we could see a little bit of cloud cover and a lot of potential drizzle show up by the early morning hours. Clearing by the afternoon beautifully. Then by tomorrow evening, we could get a little bit of drizzle as well. This could carry on through Sunday and maybe even Sunday evening. There is a chance of a shower. Ever so slight, but the chance is there. So we're going to continue to track that for you as low pressure moves into Southern California over the next few days. It's going to cool us down. It's going to bring in that chance of rain into the forecast as well. And of course, the cloud cover. As we get a look at temperatures for tomorrow, numbers mostly in the 60s and the 70s, 67 for downtown, 65 for LAX. So little cooler. And as we check out my 7-day forecast, for the IE, the high desert in the mountains, you will see in just a moment, we're going to get a little cooler for us there, and for the beaches based in the valleys, cooler as well through the weekend, and then warmer again by the time we head into next week. And for the IE, the high desert, here we have it in the mountains, cooler through Sunday, cloudier as well, and then warmer Monday, but much warmer by Tuesday and Wednesday, slightly cooler again by Thursday and Friday of next week. Juan, back to you.
Not a bad stretch at all.
Not at
Evelyn,
all.
thanks so much. All right, coming up next here at 9, the ongoing search for that missing Bengal tiger in Texas and why the man who was last seen with him has been ordered back to jail tonight.
Live from the Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is KCAL 9 News at 9.
Tonight, an ominous sign for Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz. His close associate Joel Greenberg agreed to plead guilty today to numerous crimes, including child sex trafficking. Welcome back to KCAL 9 News at 9, and we're streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. I'm Juan Fernandez. The plea agreement stipulates that Greenberg will cooperate in all federal investigations, including the federal probe into Gaetz. Correspondent Major Garrett has details.
Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz once called Joel Greenberg his wingman. In today's plea agreement, Greenberg admits to knowingly paying a minor for sex. The document says Greenberg also introduced the minor to other adult men who engaged in commercial sex acts with the minor. Multiple sources familiar with the matter tell CBS News one of the men Greenberg introduced the minor to was Gaetz, and that federal investigators are looking into whether Gaetz had a sexual relationship with her. Gaetz has repeatedly denied having sex with the minor and paying for sex. CBS News has also learned the identity of the minor in question, who is now 21.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
On Wednesday at the Capitol, we tried to ask Gaetz about his relationship with the woman.
Congressman Gaetz?
Arlo Devlin Brown is a former federal prosecutor.
If I'd had dealings with Joel Greenberg where I was involved in any of the illegal activities he's pled guilty to, particularly sex trafficking a minor, I'd be very concerned.
According to multiple sources, the woman, who was by then 18, also traveled to the Bahamas in 2018 with Gaetz and at least 3 other paid escorts. Greenberg is facing a minimum prison sentence of 12 years and agreed to help federal prosecutors with their investigation.
You can't half cooperate. Once you sign up with the government to be a cooperator, you better provide full and complete and truthful information.
Major Garrett, Washington.
Gaetz did not respond directly to the agreement, but a spokesperson responded with, quote, Congressman Gaetz doesn't seem to be named nor referenced in Mr. Greenberg's plea. Congressman Gaetz has never had sex with a minor and has never paid for sex, unquote. Greenberg is set to plead guilty in federal court in Orlando on Monday. A $10 million settlement has been reached in Columbus, Ohio, for the family of a black man who was shot to death by a white police officer in December when he came out of his garage holding a cell phone. The settlement announced today is the largest in the city's history.
My daughter's 3. She might not understand it now, but when she's older, she will definitely understand the legacy that her big daddy left behind for her. It's one step, but it's not full justice. It's one step towards something. It doesn't help or it doesn't take the scar off of our hearts.
The officer was fired and has pleaded not guilty to charges, including murder. In South Carolina now, newly released body cam and surveillance video shows deputies forcibly removing a mentally ill black man from a jail cell. Jamal Sutherland died shortly after that. Ryan Young has a look at the new video, which may be disturbing for some viewers.
Hey, come to the door!
Tonight, newly released video shows the events leading up to the death of 31-year-old Jamal Sutherland, a black man awaiting a bond hearing for an alleged misdemeanor assault.
Drop to your knees!
Sutherland, whose family says he was diagnosed with mental health issues at a young age, was in voluntary treatment at a mental health facility in North Charleston, South Carolina. On the night of January 4th, authorities responding to an altercation that broke out at the facility arrested Sutherland after he allegedly assaulted a staff member. His family says they were never notified and are speaking out for the first time since the video was released.
We got no information from anybody. We never knew he was taken from the mental health center.
Sutherland died in custody the next morning at the North Charleston Detention Center after he was removed from his cell to attend the bond hearing.
Bond Judson, get out of here.
The newly released body cam video shows the timeline of what occurred in the moments leading up to Sutherland's death.
Hey, come put your hands through the flat, man.
It shows officers at his cell door for several minutes telling him to put his hands out to be cuffed, warning if he doesn't comply, they'll use force. After several more failed attempts to coax him out, he is hit with more pepper spray. About a minute later, the doors open again. This time, deputies tase Sutherland and tell him to get on his stomach. He can be heard asking, "What's the meaning of this?" Deputies enter the cell telling him to relax and not to resist. Deputies tase Sutherland multiple times to get control of him in the cell. He can be seen and heard screaming on the ground. 2 minutes later, Sutherland is eventually cuffed and slid out of his cell. His family saw the video for the first time just a week ago.
Mental illness does not give anybody the right to put their hands on my child.
Sutherland's father says a mental health professional in the cell with his son would have changed the outcome.
He was already afraid and confused about the situation, and there was nobody in there to talk to him with any compassion, to try to reason with him.
Today, Charleston County Sheriff Kristen Gazzino speaking out.
I will not tolerate any acts of violence against our citizens or our residents at our facility, and I will not any acts of destruction that jeopardize the safety of that community.
That was Ryan Young reporting. The sheriff says the 2 deputies involved are now on desk duty. The county solicitor says she'll decide before the end of June whether to bring any criminal charges. A critical bridge connecting Arkansas and Tennessee remains closed tonight because of a large crack, but shipping in the Mississippi River down below has resumed. The U.S. Coast Guard reopened the waterway today. Barge traffic was backed up because of the closure. The bridge remains shut down to vehicle traffic so crews can make emergency repairs to that crack that was found during a routine inspection earlier this week. Tennessee's chief engineer says an initial analysis has found the bridge to be stable. And there are worries about a pedestrian bridge that connects Kentucky and Ohio after stones from one of the bridge piers reportedly fell into the Ohio River. The nonprofit company that owns the bridge says it has to evaluate the safety before they can reopen the roughly 150-year-old Newport South Bank Bridge. It's expected to remain closed through the weekend. Coming up here at 9, water worries. The search for alternate water sources after a Northern California lake begins to dry up.
Wow, and we are getting a look at the Santa Monica Pier tonight. Cloud cover, and there is a chance of rain, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll do the rain dance, and we'll have your forecast when we come back.
Live from the Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is KCAL 9 News at 9.
Now at 9, breaking news. More explosions in Gaza City tonight as Israel continues its bombing campaign against Hamas. Innocent civilians continue to be caught in the crossfire. Also, ditching masks. The CDC tells vaccinated Americans they can stop wearing masks and end physical distancing in most situations. An emergency shutdown. A key bridge over the Mississippi is closed after a large crack is discovered, impacting drivers and shipments of goods. And U.S. Marines arrested the first active duty service member to be charged in the attack on the Capitol. Welcome to KCAL 9 News at 9, and we're streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. I'm Juan Fernandez. Pat Harvey has the night off. We begin with breaking news tonight. The fighting in the Middle East is intensifying with more airstrikes from Israel on the Gaza Strip and clashes on the ground in cities of Israel where Arabs and Jews live side by side. Egyptian mediators rushed to Israel for ceasefire efforts but showed no signs of progress. Now, there have been 4 nights of intense cross-border air raids so far. It's the most intense fighting in Israel and has ever seen, and it's had with Hamas. And the attacks have already claimed the lives of more than 100 Palestinians and 8 Israelis. Large explosions shook Gaza City early on Friday morning as Israel kept up a punishing bombing campaign. Israel says it's building up troops along the Gaza frontier and calling up 9,000 reservists ahead of a possible ground invasion of the Hamas-ruled territory. The fighting has sparked the worst Jewish-Arab violence inside Israel for decades. Well, tonight, global airlines are canceling flights to Israel as the violence in Gaza escalates. Here in the U.S., that includes Delta, American, and United Airlines. And back here in the Southland, the Muslim Public Affairs Council is calling on the U.S. to preserve religious freedom in Jerusalem. The group gathered in Highland Park today on the final day of Eid al-Fitr to call for peace.
What's happening in what we all call the Holy Land is anything but holy. It is anti-human and anti-God.
The group is also calling for an end to the, quote, military occupation of Palestine, calling it an ethnic cleansing of an indigenous people. Turning now to the pandemic, vaccinated people who've been waiting to ditch their masks finally got the news they've been waiting for. Tonight, the CDC says Americans who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 do not need to wear masks or maintain social distance in almost all situations. Tonight, about 1 in every 3 Americans is now fully vaccinated, and the White House hopes these newly relaxed restrictions will encourage those who have gotten their shots to do so. Still, there are caveats. The CDC director says people who are not fully vaccinated should keep wearing masks indoors and that everyone will need to wear them at certain times, including while traveling. Nancy Cordes now has more now from today's big announcement.
This recommendation holds true whether you are inside or outside.
President Biden hailed the new development in the Rose Garden.
And you can shake hands. You can even give each other a hug.
As the First Lady celebrated with a newly maskless crowd in West Virginia.
We just learned it as we got off the plane, and here I had gone out to buy one that was coordinated with my outfit, so.
The CDC says the updated guidance is based on new data about the powerful protection the shots provide. With nearly half of U.S. adults now fully vaccinated, new daily cases in the U.S. have dropped by a third just in the past 2 weeks, the lowest rate since last September. The Cleveland Clinic found that 99% of hospital admissions for COVID-19 this year involved people who were not fully vaccinated. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky.
Now, if you are immune compromised, you will most definitely want to talk to your doctor before giving up your mask.
For many Americans, donning a mask has become as automatic as putting on shoes. States and cities first began mandating masks more than a year ago.
As of midnight tonight, it will be a requirement.
There are some exceptions to the new guidelines. Everyone will still have to mask up in healthcare settings and on planes, buses, and other forms of public transportation. Some local businesses and workplaces may still require masks too.
Going to see you again later.
But at this workplace, the changes were immediate. A meeting that began with masks ended without them after the new guidelines were announced halfway through.
We heard all about it. The president took his off too. Yeah.
So what about unvaccinated people who might now feel emboldened to shed the mask themselves? Well, President Biden acknowledged there is no enforcement mechanism here. He says it's going to have to operate on the honor system. Nancy Cordes, the White House.
For the second time in 3 weeks, Governor Gavin Newsom announced more help for California small businesses. It's welcome news, of course, but for some owners, it may be too late. KCAL 9 political reporter Tom Waite is live now in Sherman Oaks, where he spoke with business owners. Tom.
Hi there, Juan. Well, as you said, some business owners are very pleased, of course, to hear this news, but it comes after the end of many people saying this is when the pandemic starts to wind down. So they say, why did it happen sooner? Wine is flowing again at Augustine Wine Bar in Sherman Oaks. The owners say customers are coming back.
All the customers have been coming in. I'd say at least 95% of them are all vaccinated. So it's just having that comfortability feel. Everyone's excited to be coming back and everyone's just excited to get back to normal.
Gus Renault is one of the co-owners of Augustine. He says the pandemic pushed their business toward the brink. Even more help from the state is welcome news.
Anything would be a huge help for us.
Governor Gavin Newsom announced another $25,000 in grant money for small businesses. It's the second time in 3 weeks Newsom has doled out more cash for hard-hit mom and pop shops and restaurants. The money comes from a massive state surplus generated by some of California's richest residents.
A $76 billion operating surplus in the state of California. That doesn't even include the close to $27 billion that we'll be receiving from the federal government.
CBS Sacramento asked Newsom whether the recall influenced his decision to announce more aid.
You're in a recall campaign, and there are those who believe that there's a perception anything you announce is related to the recall.
Yeah, brushing my teeth this morning. He did it under the basis of, this is all things I campaigned on. This is everything that I promoted.
Newsom's efforts to help businesses across the state are welcomed, but some owners are frustrated.
I kind of feel like it's a little bit too late to get people to fall in love with him.
Renee Kennedy owns Earth Baby Boutique in Sherman Oaks. The shutdowns hit her business hard.
I know so many of us didn't get the first round of grants or the PPP first round. I did get the second one, and the holding ended up going to my landlord.
Renee says the lockdowns were not handled well.
I, as the business owner, think that it was handled so horribly, especially in California. I feel like we're definitely struggling more than anyone else I talk to in other states.
At Augustine, a different take on the situation.
I'm not going to be like, oh, you could do a much better job in all this. Like, who knows? So we're thankful for everything that's happened with us and everything that the city, the state, everything they've done.
And businesses are facing a different problem. We talked to one business owner who said it's hard to find workers because state unemployment benefits are so strong. Reporting live in Sherman Oaks, I'm Tom Waite, KCAL 9 News.
Yeah, Tom, we have more on that right now. Thanks so much. Meanwhile, more than a dozen states are now getting rid of pandemic-related unemployment benefits. As Tom was mentioning, that will affect more than 1.2 million unemployed Americans, getting an extra $300 every week on top of their state's regular unemployment benefits. Montana was the first to announce it was pulling out of the federal program, citing severe worker shortages. Georgia is the latest state to do away with that benefit. And this week, President Biden warned people who can work must accept job offers or lose their benefits. All right, coming up next here at 9, another brutal attack in the Bay Area, and it's caught on camera. And police say this wasn't the only victim. And fake vaccination card operation. A CVS employee is caught with a box full of stolen cards. And a cat makes a jump for it out of a burning building. Look at that, Ev.
That's incredible, Juan. Wow. They got 9 lives, right? Very resilient, that's for sure. As we get a look outside right now at Long Beach, you will see a little bit of cloud cover and cooler temperatures on the horizon, along with a slight chance of rain. I'll have all the details when we come back.
And remember, you can watch us anywhere and anytime on our brand new CBS Los Angeles app. Just go to cbsla.com/app to download it. You can watch our live newscasts on CBSN LA. We're streaming 24/7. Plus, get the latest weather and sports. Police in San Leandro have arrested an 11 and 17-year-old who attacked and robbed an 80-year-old Asian man over the weekend. The robbery was caught on security camera. The two suspects shoved the victim to the ground, as you see right there, and they demanded his wallet and took his Fitbit wristband. Well, less than 2 hours later, police believe the same suspects robbed a 19-year-old Hispanic woman. A neighbor said the elderly man was not seriously hurt. Well, as more people get vaccinated for COVID-19 and more places require proof, forging vaccination cards has become a growing scam. A 21-year-old from Long Island, New York, has been busted for stealing boxes of blank vaccination cards from the CVS he worked at. Zachary Honig told arresting officers he sells the cards to kids so they can go to school. Police say there is no evidence he sold the cards, but the investigation is ongoing.
It doesn't look too complicated to reproduce or make it look real.
The first 8 cards that he had were already pre-filled out with the batch number. As you see here, we already took out the lot number and the manufacturer name. He also had additionally 54 blank cards with him.
Well, Honig has since been fired from his job at CVS. The FBI and CDC are warning that making or using fake cards is punishable by up to 5 years in prison and steep fines. And back here in the Southland, kids between 12 and 15 are now being vaccinated against COVID-19 in places like Long Beach. No appointment is needed at city-run vaccine sites. Officials say children will need to be with a parent to get the shot. And we spoke to one teen who got her first dose today.
I'm about to get my first dose of the Pfizer vaccine. I'm pretty excited about it. Seeing as I play a sport at school, I'll feel more comfortable going to practices and stuff and actually interacting with my team.
While Pfizer is the only option for those under 18, the convention center site also offers Moderna and Johnson & Johnson for everyone else. Well, tonight the race is on to vaccinate nearly 17 million kids in that 12 to 15 age group. Mololengi now shows us the mass vaccination effort that got underway in the nation's capital today.
Happy Vaccine Day.
Tonight, the White House rolling out the first coronavirus vaccination campaign ever to get kids to roll up their sleeves.
We are putting every resource possible to bear to reach people who aren't vaccinated yet.
What's that quick?
Young people arrived at Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C. today for the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine after the CDC recommended it for kids as young as 12.
I'm waiting for this moment for a long, long time.
Nearly 6,000 parents began pre-registering their children about a week ago. Helen Quick was with her sons, 13-year-old Cooper and 15-year-old Turner, when they finally received their shots.
I'm just so thankful to be able to avail ourselves of this amazing vaccine and get these kids back to being kids.
But health officials across the country still have a ways to go to convince everyone to get the shot. A recent survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation revealed that only 3 in 10 parents with children ages 12 to 15 said they would get their child vaccinated as soon as possible.
It didn't hurt at all. It was worth it.
But for kids like 14-year-old Hector Knox, today's shot in the arm is a big relief.
I'll be able to travel more freely and interact with my friends.
12-year-old Jacob Balagun's reason to get vaccinated was simple.
It's definitely a good thing. You don't want to get COVID.
Mololengi, KCAL 9 News.
Well, doctors had been advising to avoid getting the COVID-19 vaccine within 2 weeks of any other vaccine, but the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics now says it's okay to give routine childhood vaccinations together with the COVID shot. All right, the weekend is not far from us, so let's go ahead and check in now with meteorologist Evelyn Taft to see what we can expect. Ev?
Hi, Juan. It's so close. We can taste it, that's for sure. And it's going to be a little cooler as we head into the weekend. On top of that, we are doing the rain dance, whatever that looks like, because we are in for a chance of rain, light rain and drizzle, but we're hoping we'll get it in any shape or form. Let's get a look at the rest of our forecast right here. And you will see 67. That was earlier today in downtown. So we were mild. The record to beat was 98. Didn't get anywhere too close to that. We were cooler today. We've got more cooling on the way. That marine layer already making a push into our inland valleys, the basin and the coast. And that's really the case up and down our entire coastline tonight. As we get a look at temperatures in Southern California right now, you'll notice 59 as we head to downtown, 60 for Burbank, 62 as we head to Van Nuys, and 64 in Santa Clarita. So certainly a cooler evening for us and more cooling on the way, increasing cloud cover and that chance of drizzle potentially as early as tomorrow morning by 3 a.m. As we carry on through the late morning hours, we're still looking at cloud cover and possibly some drizzle clearing to the coast. By 9:30, that's 9:30 tomorrow night, the clouds will be back and they're here to stay for most of the weekend. Cloudy with a chance of showers by Saturday and by Saturday night. Now Sunday, even cooler as low pressure really starts to settle in by Sunday afternoon. And even by Monday, we're keeping things a little cooler. There's a chance of rain to our north, but doesn't look like we're going to see it here at home, with the exception of maybe some drizzle and maybe a light shower, but not too organized, not too widespread. But of course, it's something. Highs tomorrow, 60s, 70s, 80s, 80 Ontario, 83 as we head to San Bernardino, 71 for Big Bear, and 101 for Palm Springs. And as we get a look at my 7-day forecast for the beaches, the basin, and the valleys, you'll see temperatures in the 60s and 70s for now, and staying that way at least through Saturday. Now Sunday, a whole lot cooler, just 60s. By Monday, Tuesday, a little cooler before we warm it up again. Wednesday and Thursday, back up to the 60s, 70s, even the 80s for some of us by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for the high desert. Until then, slightly cooler tomorrow, more cooling Saturday, and bottoming out temperature-wise by Sunday. The mountains in the 50s, the high desert in the low 70s, and the IE going from the 90s and the 80s to the 60s by Sunday. Juan, back to you.
Evelyn, thank you so much. Coming up, an unusual social media campaign, why some TikTok users are trying to free the Menendez brothers.
Live from the Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is KCAL 9 News at 9.
Tonight, an active duty Marine major stationed at Quantico, Virginia is charged with assault and obstruction of law enforcement during the deadly attack on Capitol Hill. Welcome back to KCAL 9 News at 9, and we're streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. I'm Juan Fernandez. Video and photos from the January assault led to the Marine's arrest. Jeff Pegues now has more from Washington.
While the mob was beating on the doors of the Capitol, Major Christopher Warnagiris, an active duty Marine officer, was already inside between a police officer and the rioters, propping the door open, helping them get through. Investigators say he assaulted, resisted, and impeded officers. The 40-year-old from Woodbridge, Virginia, who serves at Marine Base Quantico, is the first active member of the military charged in connection with the insurrection. He spent 18 years with the Marines, including deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. Warnagiris joins 4 National Guard members and reservists, as well as approximately 40 veterans who are already facing charges. Officer Brian Sicknick died a day after the assault, and more than 140 officers were injured, including Michael Fanone, whose body camera captured the mob attacking him while he pleaded for his life. Meanwhile, some Republicans, like Andrew Clyde of Georgia, continue to downplay what happened that day.
There was no insurrection, and to call it an insurrection, in my opinion, is a bold-faced lie.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi took issue with Clyde's remark.
It was beyond denial. It fell into the range of sick.
In response to the major's arrest, the Marine Corps said today that there is no place in the force for racial hatred or extremism. The Marine Corps also said that it will assist with the investigation if it's called upon. As for the major, if he's convicted, he faces decades behind bars. Jeff Pegues, Washington.
A new guilty plea could escalate the legal and political jeopardy of Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, a key figure in a federal investigation into the GOP representative Joel Greenberg has a hearing next week where he is expected to change his plea to guilty. A source familiar with the matter says Greenberg is cooperating with investigators in wide-ranging sex trafficking investigation into Gates. Greenberg was indicted on dozens of public corruption and other charges. Gates says he has not been charged with anything, and he denies any wrongdoing. A significant fracture has shut down a section of I-40 over the Mississippi River near Memphis. The Hernando de Soto Bridge spans the Mississippi River and connects Tennessee and Arkansas. The Tennessee Department of Transportation says a crack was discovered during a routine inspection of the nearly 50-year-old bridge. Arkansas officials called it a significant fracture to a beam that's crucial to the bridge's integrity. Now, thousands of trucks and cars are being forced to take detours, and shipping on the Mississippi River is shut down in the Memphis area. Crews are working to repair that crack. The transportation official says it could take months to fix. Well, today, President Biden met with a group of Republican senators who are leading negotiations on a new infrastructure bill. The two sides remain far apart on a variety of issues, including how to spend, how much to pay for it, and even what can be considered infrastructure. But as Skylar Henry reports, both sides are looking for common ground.
President Biden hosted a group of Republican senators looking for a compromise on a new infrastructure bill.
They're sincere about it, and so am I. And what we're going to try to do is figure out what we can agree constitutes infrastructure from each of our perspectives. Talk about how to proceed from there.
This group, led by West Virginia's Shelley Moore Capito, is leading the negotiations for Senate Republicans. They're looking for a bill about a third of the size of the president's proposal, and they want to focus on traditional infrastructure projects such as roads and bridges.
We're very encouraged. We feel very committed to the bipartisan ship that we think that this infrastructure package can carry forward. And again, I'm grateful to the president and his staff for the give and take that we shared in the Oval Office.
President Biden says he wants to pass some kind of bill with Republican support, even if that means breaking up his $2 trillion proposal into two parts. One he'll pass with Republican support, the other he'll try to pass without them.
We didn't compromise on anything. What we did was I laid out what I thought we should be doing, how it should be paid for.
The president has asked us to come back and rework an offer so that he can then react to that and then re-offer to us.
Republicans argue the price tag for the president's proposal and his plan to pay for it with new taxes on corporations and the rich would hurt the country. Skylar Henry, the White House.
Democrats could pass the bill without Republican support using a Senate rule known as reconciliation, which allows for a bill to avoid the procedural filibuster and pass with a simple majority. Well, volunteers helping the migrant children being housed in Long Beach got a visit today from Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra. He went to the emergency intake site at the convention center to get a first-hand look at the facility. He saw where the kids play and sleep and even saw some of the artwork they've done. Becerra said 70,000 toys and books have been donated to the kids.
If you're a parent like me, you know what it means to treat a child with respect. And I want to tell the people of Long Beach, you are treating kids with respect.
About 700 children are currently staying in Long Beach until they can be reunited with a family member or a sponsor.
Can you get the camera off of him?
Stop! You can't!
Coming up, a TV news crew was attacked while doing a story about violence and crime at a popular tourist destination. Then, what's causing an early snake season in parts of California?
And we are getting a look outside right now at LAX. A little bit of cloud cover in the mix and cooler temperatures on the way. My forecast straight ahead.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand. And CBS in LA, all in just one tap. Download now.
Folks in Northern California have to watch out for dangerous snakes thanks to the recent weather. Experts say wet weather 2 years ago led to more vegetation, more rodents, and more snakes. Specifically rattlesnakes, and a lot were displaced from their habitat in the hills during last year's record wildfire season. The hot and dry weather is also a reason for the early snake season.
Snakes do like warm and dry. Warm because they are cold-blooded, so they rely on outside temperatures to bring up their body temperature to make them active. and then dry because a lot of reptiles actually can get skin fungus in moist conditions.
The UC Davis biologist encourages people not to kill them because they do play an important role in our ecosystem. Well, a property owner and real estate agent in San Francisco is offering a bargain for a waterfront property, just $75,000. But to see the vacant lot, you will need scuba gear. The 1.1 acre lot is underwater, located 3 blocks east of Candlestick Park.
I haven't seen the property myself.
What? You own it and you haven't seen it?
No, I haven't. Just own a piece of San Francisco and buy into the future.
Trent Zoo bought the lot from San Francisco County at an auction about 6 years ago for less than $5,000. So far, Evelyn, no takers, but people sure are curious. At least you got to look at it like that, right? You're buying a little piece of San Francisco, but
exactly.
What else are you going to do with it, right?
Exactly. I mean, I'm open to buying a little piece of San Francisco.
$75,000.
Right. Woo! Grew up there, but that's a price tag. That's for sure.
Tonight, fuel is moving through the entire Colonial Pipeline, but very slowly. Gasoline is still hard to find from Texas to D.C. because of panic buying when the pipeline was shut down for 6 days after a ransomware attack. And tonight we're learning a ransom was paid to get the gas flowing again. Manuel Bojorquez reports now from North Carolina.
Don't panic, number one. I know seeing lines at the pumps or gas stations with no gas can be extremely stressful. But this is a temporary situation.
The president tried to assure the southeast and mid-Atlantic states that the gas crunch could be over in a few days. CBS News has learned that Colonial Pipeline did pay a multi-million-dollar ransom to the hackers to unlock some of its data. Biden was asked if he was briefed on the matter.
I have no comment on that.
Out here, the panic continues.
51 inches.
Just ask tanker truck driver Ray Humphrey, a rare sight these days, replenishing the supply at this Raleigh gas station. When he shows up, he draws a crowd.
I went in and got a drink, come back out. They were here.
Just like that.
Magic.
Yay! We found people who actually followed him here. Did you see him coming?
I saw him coming.
And you lined up?
And I came and lined up.
The shortages may now be peaking as the Colonial Pipeline resumed operations after last week's ransomware attack. But Washington, D.C. remains hard hit with nearly 3/4 of gas stations dry. In North Carolina, it's 68%, and about half of stations are out in Virginia, South Carolina, and Georgia. Some gas stations in Georgia are limiting customers to $20 purchases amid reports people keep hoarding gas. In Florida, firefighters said this Hummer with 4 containers of gasoline inside burst into flames. Back in North Carolina, Mike Whalen just reopened his 3 gas stations that were out of gas. He says his fuel delivery was only a fraction of what he normally receives.
I get 4,000 gallons, which is what we're hoping for. We'll pump it out within a couple of hours.
The price for a gallon of unleaded at his location is just under $3, but the North Carolina Attorney General's office says it has received nearly 400 complaints about possible price gouging across the state since Monday. Manuel Bojorquez, Raleigh.
You a snitch! Hey, get out my face!
Come on. I'm just asking you respectfully.
Don't touch me.
Okay, I'm just asking you respectfully.
Right now, nigga.
A TV news crew with CBS Miami was attacked on South Beach while working on a story about crime in the area. The Miami Beach City Commission had just passed a resolution to stop alcohol sales past 2 a.m. instead of 5 a.m. in parts of the entertainment district to curb unruly behavior. The group turned on the crew after they caught a fight on camera.
Last year we were closed for 14 months. But others were closed for 8 months, and crime soared in the street.
The new last call starts next weekend until early December. Critics of the bill say it targets some restaurants and not others. The TV news crew was not hurt. 2 people were detained in the incident and face felony criminal mischief and battery charges. The trial of 3 former Minneapolis police officers charged with aiding and abetting in the death of George Floyd will be pushed back to March of next year. Thomas Lane, Jane J. King, and To Thao were scheduled to face trial in August. And as you know, Derek Chauvin has already been convicted of murder and manslaughter. All 4 officers also face federal charges that allege they violated Floyd's civil rights during his arrest last May. The judge said he changed the trial date so the federal case can go forward first. He also said he felt the need to put some distance between the 3 officers' trial and Chauvin's due to all the publicity surrounding the case.